Hi everyone. The story that we're going to read today has a couple different parts to it. First part is where I'm going to read the story to you. The second part is going to be the art project, and then there's a third part that my cousin Trista is doing with you guys, a science lesson about seed germination, the life cycle of a seed. Our story is called The Tiny Seed by Carle. Carle is one of my favorite authors. The reason I love Carle so much is because he's not only the author, which is the person that writes the words of the story, but he's the illustrator, and that's the person who does the pictures of the story. So how he does his pictures is he paints large sheets of tissue paper with lots of bright colors, and he uses sponges and paintbrushes, and he lets those large sheets of paper dry. And once they're dry, then he uses them by cutting out shapes to create his characters or his scenery. And in this case, the petals of the flower, the leaves off the stem, and all the different scenes in the story, which we're going to read. But first, I want to show you some of the things excuse me, that you're going to need. One of the first things that you'll need are paper plates. Now, if you don't have paper plates, don't worry about it, but you're going to need 3 paper plates, and there are 3 here. And if you don't have paper plates, 3 circles about the size of a paper plate. And Mom or Dad, you can help them with this. They can trace a cake pan or a plate onto a piece of paper. So you need 3 of these. The next thing you're going to need is something to put your paint on. This is a styrofoam plate. I can't use this to create my flower, but I can use it to put my paint on. You're going to either need to have sponges, cotton balls, fingers, or even one of those foam paint brushes. I'm wearing gloves, only because I can make a big mess. If you don't want to wear gloves, you don't have to. The other things that I need are craft paints. So I have this group of 4 colors here. This is my group 1. I have yellow, red, orange, and like a peach color. That's my first group. My second group are blues and purples and lilacs. And I like those colors together. And then my third group of colors are for the leaves. And so I have a dark green, a lime green, and a turquoise. And I love these colors for leaves. Something else that you'll need is either a tape dispenser, double-sided tape, or glue works just as well. And then I have a paper punch to make little paper punch papers. If you don't have a paper punch, you can use scissors and cut out little circles. So for the little ones, Mom and Dad, there is a website. It's eric-carle.com, and you can go on his website. It's the author's website, and there's a whole bunch of really cool activities to go with a bunch of different books. But this one is a paper that I printed off for this particular activity. If you have a young one who can't do the bigger project that we're going to do, they can do fingerprint flowers and color the rest of their page. So that's an option as well. All right, so should we get started? All right, so I'm going to read the story, and then we're going to do the project. So, The Tiny Seed. It is autumn. A strong wind is blowing. It blows flower seeds high in the air and carries them far across the land. One of the seeds is tiny, smaller than any of the others. Will it be able to keep up with the others? And where are they going? One of the seeds flies higher than the others. Up, up, up it goes. It flies too high and the sun's hot rays burn it up. But the tiny seed sails on with all the others. So you can see him right there. Another seed lands on a tall and icy mountain. The ice never melts and the seed cannot grow. The rest of the seeds fly on, but the tiny seed does not go as fast as the others. Now they fly over the ocean. One seed falls into the water and drowns. The other sails on with the wind, but the tiny seed does not go as high as the others. So here's our tiny seed. One seed drifts down onto the desert. It is hot and dry, and the seed cannot grow. Now the tiny seed is flying very low, but the wind pushes it on with the others. Finally, the wind stops and the seeds gently fall down on the ground. A bird comes by and eats one seed. The tiny seed is not eaten. It is so small that the bird cannot see it. Can you find the tiny seed? I think it's right there. Now it is winter. After their long trip, the seeds settle down. They look just as if they were going to sleep in the earth. Snow falls and covers them like a soft white blanket. A hungry mouse that also lives in the ground eats a seed for his lunch, but the tiny seed lies very still and the mouse does not see it. Can you see where the tiny seed is? I think it's right there. Now it is spring, and after a few months the snow has melted. It is really spring. Birds fly by. The sun shines and rain falls. The seeds grow so round and they are full and they start to burst open a little. Now they're not seeds anymore. They are plants. First they send roots down into the earth. Then their little stems and leaves begin to grow up toward the sun. The warm weather also brings the children out to play. They too have been waiting for the sun and springtime. One child doesn't see the plant as he runs along, and uh-oh, he breaks one. Now it cannot grow anymore. The tiny plant that grew from the tiny seed is growing fast, but its neighbor grows even faster. Before the tiny plant has 3 leaves, the other plant has 7. And look, a bud, and now even a flower. But what is happening? First, there are footsteps. Then a shadow looms over them. Then a hand reaches down and breaks off the flower. A boy has picked the flower to give to a friend. It is summer. Now the tiny plant from the tiny seed is all alone. It grows on and on. It doesn't stop. The sun shines on it and the rains water it. It has many leaves. It grows taller and taller. It is taller than the people. It is taller than the trees. It is taller than the houses. And now a flower grows on it. People come from far and near to look at this flower. It is the tallest flower they have ever seen. It is a giant flower. All summer long, the birds and the bees and the butterflies come visiting. They have never seen such a big and beautiful flower. Now it is autumn again, and the days grow shorter, the nights grow cooler, and the wind carries yellow and red leaves past the flower. Some petals drop from the giant flower, and they sail along with the brightest leaves over the land and down to the ground. The wind blows harder. The flower has lost almost all of its petals. It sways and bends away from the wind, but the wind grows stronger and shakes the flower. Once more, the wind shakes the flower, and this time the flower's seed pod opens. Out come many tiny seeds that quickly sail far away on the wind. And that's our story. So from a tiny seed, that little seed made it into that giant flower. And so just like you're going to grow up from this tiny little person into a grown-up someday. And think of all the joy you're going to bring people all through your life by doing good and being a good friend. Okay, so we're going to start on our project. So I'm trying to decide how I want to set the camera up so that you can see what we're doing. But in the meantime, I'll put on my gloves. Just because I don't want to make a mess for me. All right, so I have my plate that I'm going to use my first group of colors. Remember I said I had red, yellow, orange, and peach. So I'm going to put a little bit of those colors on my dish. So I'm going to do this first. I can show you. Made a loud noise. There we go. Need my muscles. So with all this beautiful weather we're having, I know we're stuck inside and not really being able to go anywhere, but we can think about how all the flowers are going to be growing and how pretty everything's going to look. So I have a sponge, and I have my first group of paints, and I have my first paper plate. And all I'm really going to do is I'm going to wet my sponge. I have a little cup of water. Wet my sponge, squeeze it out, squeeze it out over the cup, and then I'm going to dip in my red first. And what I'm going to do is, and you can do this flat on the table, but I am by myself and I have no one to hold the camera for me. So I'm just going to hold it up and show you how I'm doing it. And so I'm going to go around the whole plate, sponging my red first. And this is really quick work. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. And especially if your sponge was wet first, it makes it go much quicker. All right, so I have a lot of red on here. I don't have to wash this out. I'm going to dip in some of my orange, and I'm going to start putting the orange just all around so you can see how I have orange and red. I'm just filling in. I'm not covering the whole thing because I covered the whole thing in red. So there's my orange. And now I'm going to dip in my yellow. So I put a good amount of yellow on my sponge. And I'm just going to dab all around. And remember, this is your creation, so you can use as much or as little as you like. And then the last one I have is that peach. And that might not show up, but I'm going to try anyway. I like to get those multi-dimensional layers of color. And so there's plate number one. That was pretty quick. So then I'm going to wash out my sponge in my cup of water. It washes out really quickly and really easily. And squeeze out all the extra water. And then I'm going to take my 4 colors that are my second grouping, the blues and the purples. I'm going to put them on my plate. You use whatever colors you have, whatever colors you like. You do not have to use 4, you can use 3. I would definitely recommend at least 2, but 3 really makes it look multi-dimensional. Here's my next plate, here's my wet sponge, and I'm going to start with blue. And I'm just going to dab all over my plate with the blue. So again, it's very quickly, I'm filling that space up with the blue. It won't take long. Voila, my blue is done. I don't even have to wash my sponge. I'm gonna dip in some dark purple. I'm just dipping it, sponging all around. This is how Carle makes a lot of his papers. He does a lot of multicolored papers, lets them dry. Sometimes he doesn't use bright colors, especially if he's, making an elephant or a lion. He uses colors specifically, or a bear. He uses colors specifically for those animals. So there's my 2 colors. Now I'm going to take the light lilac and kind of just mix that in a little bit. And voila, there's that one. So now I'm going to need a plate or paper to do the greens for the leaves. So I'm going to wash this sponge out again in my cup of water. And I have my 3 colors of green. I have a dark green. And we don't have to do the whole plate for this one because we're just going to cut out leaves that are much smaller than the flower itself. And my turquoise. So I'm going to start with the dark green. I'm going to just do the center of the plate where it's flat. You can do all the way out to the edges if you like, but I'm just going to do that part. And then I'm going to take some turquoise and add that color. It's one of my favorite colors to add with greens, especially when I'm painting on some of my canvas paintings when I paint flowers. And then, so there was my turquoise, and now I'm adding the lime. Sorry, sometimes I talk and I don't remember to show you. So there's my greens, and I can set my paints and my sponge aside. Okay, so what you'll have to do is, because you won't be able to do this right away, but you're going to have to set these aside to dry. Now I already did some earlier today because I knew that we were going to be doing it, but here's my plate for my greens, for my leaves, and then here are my 2 groupings for my flower petal. So what we do next is I'm going to take my gloves off because I don't need them anymore. You know, and at any time during this video, you certainly can pause, replay, come back to it so that you don't miss anything. So the first thing I'm going to do is, I have a magic marker. You can use a pencil. We're actually going to draw on this side, and we're going to draw our flower shape that we're going to cut out. And so I like to make big petals like this. We're not going to cut each one separately. See how quickly I did that? And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a scissors, which I forgot to tell you you needed in your supply list, and I'm just going to cut out my flower. And I'm cutting it on this side so I can see where my lines are. Because you don't want to see your pencil marks on the front with the pretty colored paint. And so, and if you have trouble cutting, I'm sure Mom or Dad would help you cut. You do whatever works for you. Maybe you have an older brother or sister. It's a really good time for you to get along with your older brother or sister and have them help you. And that goes for you guys, the older brothers and sisters. If you see your younger brother or sister struggling, it's really good to want to help them. I know we don't always get along with our siblings, especially now that we're stuck in the house so much, with school being out, but we have to make the best of what we've got. So there's the first part of my flower. I'm going to take the second one and I'm going to do the same thing. And I try and use up as much of the plate as I can. And you can have as many petals on your flower as you like. So there's the second one. And again, we're going to cut it out. So back to Eric Carle. If you go to that website, there are tons of really cool projects that he posts on his website, really cool videos that you can watch of how he creates his papers in his studio. He has a beautiful studio. He lives in one of the New England states. I can't remember right now which one it is. And he's 80 years old. He no longer writes to people. When I was teaching in a classroom, my students, this was probably 10 years ago, we wrote to Eric Carle the old-fashioned way, snail mail, not an email. And he actually wrote us back and sent us some samples of his paper and sent us some posters and some activities to do with some of his books. It was really cool. He no longer does that. He's retired because he is up in age, and he devotes his time to just creating his art. He also has a Facebook page, which I do follow, and you can always find out the newest information about some of the fun things he's doing with his stories. But he's a pretty cool guy, and I really, really enjoy following him on Facebook and reading his stories. And there's my second flower. So what we're actually going to be doing with these two, I forgot to cut this one part on the red one. What we're actually going to be doing with these flowers is we're going to be taking a pencil. Let me grab a pencil out of my... And we're going to just roll a little bit on each petal towards the center. Just a little bit, just to kind of give it a curve. I'm just just going to go around the flower and do each petal so that I have it curved up all the way around. I'm going to do the same thing with my purple one. And don't forget, we still have the green one to cut our leaves. But for right now, we want to do this part. And I really just do it one little roll. I don't curl it all the way up. I just want it to have a little bit of an edge, or a roll on the edge. And so there I have my second one. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to put these together. I'm just trying to see. I actually think I would like my blue one to be a little bit smaller, so bear with me. I'm going to trim the petals a little bit smaller. So maybe when you're drawing your second flower, make it a little bit smaller than the first one. It was my intention, but say when I'm talking, sometimes I shouldn't be talking and working at the same time because I forget what I'm doing. So, and the reason we want it to be smaller is because we still want to be able to see the pretty colors on those back petals. And so I made it smaller, but now I have to curl those edges again. And it won't take me long because you saw how quickly that goes. It sort of reminds me of the flowers from SpongeBob SquarePants, especially the flowers that are on Patrick's bathing trunks. And so then when I attach my smaller flower to my bigger flower, and it's not finished yet, you can still see the background colors of the background flower. So I'm going to take some two-sided tape and I'm just going to put some of that on the back of my blue and purple flower. Now you can also make your red flower the smaller one and your blue and purple one. So I put double-sided tape. You can put glue. And then I'm going to just add it to the center, just like that. Not finished. Just wanted to show you this part. So the next thing that we're going to do, sliding off my seat, is I'm going to take the green paper. Now, if you remember the one we painted tonight, I didn't come all the way out to the edges because I don't think I need that much. But if you want to paint the whole thing, that's fine. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to draw some leaves. So to draw the leaves, I'm just going to make some leaf shapes. You can make big ones. You can make smaller ones. I'm going to make 4, just because of time. And I'm going to cut these out. And so, how many of you like to plant flowers in the garden? My favorite thing to do is to plant zinnias. They're fast growing and they have such pretty colors, and you can get a variety of seeds that grow to different heights. And so they are one of my favorite flowers. I love sunflowers. I'm just not very good at growing sunflowers. They always seem to fall over and break before the flower even opens. But zinnias, I really love. So maybe the next time that you are able to get seeds from the store, you could get zinnia flowers and plant them. And they really are very hardy and they can withstand a lot of harsh weather, and they grow fast, and then they're pretty for cutting. So I cut out my leaves I have all 4 of my leaves. And what I'm going to do is, I'm going to use my double-sided sticky tape. You can use glue. I'm going to, on the end of a leaf, I'm going to put some sticky. And let me show you this. In between the 2 layers of flowers, I'm going to put 1 petal. So I don't know if you can see that. Then I might take a smaller one. And I did not come up with this craft all by myself. I actually saw this on Pinterest. It was done a little bit different. Excuse me. But, so there's some leaves there. And then I'm going to put some leaves maybe off to the other side as well. And I'm going to do it the same way. I'm going to put my double-sided tape in the corner here and pop this one between. Like that. Maybe this little one I'll put off by itself. So I know you're all wondering, what's she going to use the paper punch for? We have this little paper punch to make our circles. We haven't done anything with it yet. So there's kind of my fun flower. So every flower has a center, and that's usually where the seeds come from. So I'm going to use my paper punch. So the center of my flower is blue, and the background of my flower is the red. So I'm going to use some of the scraps that I have from the red, and I'm going to punch some holes. All my little holes are falling. All the little paper punch holes. Let me get these so I can show you. They're not cooperating. Get a couple more. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but it kind of looks like little seeds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my glue, and I'm going to put these in the center of my flower. And I'll show you this in 1 minute. Just give me a second to get these on here. They don't want to cooperate. There we go. I need a couple more. Out of my paper punch. Oh, they look really cute. Wait till you see. And so I added them to the center. Now I didn't do a whole lot, but you can do as many as you like. And you kind of want to fill that circle, that center in with a circle of little circles. And there is your flower. Now, what I think would be really, really special is if you had, I don't have one here, but if you had like a stick from outside, you could always tape it to a stick, and then you could have it and you could give it to your mom. Maybe you want to send it to, save it for your teacher when you go back to school, save it for your grandma, or anyone, a friend. But you can get a twig from outside that would make it look realistic. And you could attach it with tape to the back, and you have it. You have plenty of this left over. You could always cut out 2 more leaves, and you could tape them or glue it to your twig stem. And there you have it, from seed to flower. So our tiny seeds are always in the center of our flowers, and they are what get planted in the ground to create new life. So I hope you enjoyed this story as much as I did. The art part's always my favorite, but I love the story. So I hope you enjoy. Have a good one. Bye.
Hi, my name is Miss Trista, and today we're going to do a seed germination project. So what you're going to need for this project is a zip bag, some tape, a marker, water, and a paper towel or napkin. And if you don't have those available or want to use those right now, you can use coffee filters or cotton balls. So, a seed is produced by a plant, and the seed's whole purpose is so that a new plant can grow. So, on a seed, you have the outside, which is usually hard, and that's called the seed coat, and that protects the inside of the seed. Now, inside a seed, you have something it's a baby plant, and it's called the embryo. And the seed also contains an endosperm, which contains all the food that the embryo needs to grow and sprout. If you have seeds at home, I suggest using a large type seed, like a pumpkin seed would be good, because you can watch them grow better. See how big these are? So when they grow, you can actually see them growing and germinating. And I would say to stay away from these tiny little seeds because you're not actually going to be able to see much of these. So these are broccoli seeds, and I want you to see how tiny they are. You can use these, but you won't be able to see as much as you can if you use a bigger seed. And if you don't have any seeds at home, but you have popcorn at home, you can actually take a kernel of popcorn and use that to do this if you have no other kinds of seeds at home. But usually beans work really well because beans germinate quickly and they grow fast. So what you want to do is you want to take your bag, make sure it's open. You want to write your name on it and what seed you want to grow. So we have a lot of seeds growing right now, so I'm going to do one we don't have growing up there. So I'm actually going to do the popcorn kernel. You want to take your paper towel, napkin, coffee filters, or even your cotton balls. If you're using cotton balls, I would use about 6 of them or so. You want to get them nice and wet, so dip them in the water, fold it over, put your seed right in there and fold it over. You want to keep whatever you're using nice and damp, because what that does is that's going to cause scarification. And scarification is what breaks down that seed coat to actually let the plant grow. Oh, I'm sorry. You also want to write the date on the bag. Okay, so you want to leave some air in the bag, and you can just zip it off, and then you can take your tape and go tape it in a nice sunny location. So you want a nice window. You want someplace that's nice and warm too, because seeds need many of the things that us as people need to grow and survive. So seeds need things like water, food, a place to live, warmth, and they need protection as well. So we're going to take this over and we're going to tape it to the window. So you can tape it up to a nice window and you can actually watch them grow. And you want to tape them on the sides so that the top stays open, because you want to be able to put water in them if they dry out. So make sure the top stays open. And the first thing you'll notice is when the seeds start to germinate, the root will come out first. So you'll first have the root grow, and then the sprout will come out the top. And then when your seeds start growing, please share pictures with us. Show us what kind of seed you're using and the process of it germinating. And also, after your seeds start growing the sprout at the top, you can transfer it into a pot with some soil, and then you can save it for when it's ready to plant outside in your garden. And you'll have your own plant. All right, please share pictures and make sure you ask your mom and dad's permission. Thank you, bye.